everyone, and welcome to JDC West 2023 Accounting Case Competition. Before starting today, the JDC West would like to make a land acknowledgement. The University of Saskatchewan campus is located on Treaty 6 territory and the traditional homeland of Métis. We pay our respect to the First Nations and the Métis ancestors of this place and reaffirm our relationship with one another. We pledge ourselves to create a competition that celebrates the diverse cultures and the history of this land. Thank you to our judges, Willie Burrs, Celine Ilian, Robert Okin, Garis Tariq, and Gus Herbert. My name is Hannah Penn, and I will be the academic moderator of this presentation. Competitors will have a maximum of 20 minutes to present. Immediately following the presentation, judges will have a total of 5 minutes to ask presenters questions. Our academic timekeeper will hold timing cues throughout the presentation and the question period. Judges will indicate their intent to ask a question through raising their hand. Once the question period has concluded, the delegates will leave the room. No questions or comments will be permitted from the audience at any time. Please ensure that your cell phone are turned to silence and there is no talking amongst yourself or signaling to the competitors through their presentation.
As a child, my family was unable to afford the high-end equipment required today for some extracurricular activities. So to fund my passions for whether that be music or sports, we had to rely on the used equipment stores. So I, Evan, along with my colleagues Julia and Vidi, are here to discuss some opportunities that you at PGK Musical Instruments have facing you today. So currently, you're at a current state with a recovering business with opportunities to grow. So coming out of COVID, being in the musical instruments industry, your revenue has increased, but you still have a little bit more recovery coming along. So with these opportunities, we're hoping that we can show you a clear path to that recovery. Before we hop into the presentation today, I just want to acknowledge that we are currently situated on Treaty 6 territory. And now I'll invite my colleague V to discuss some analysis points.
Thank you, Evan. Now, before we move forward any recommendations we have for you today, I want to take a step back and analyze the company internally. First, your company is a very well-known brand. It has a very strong reputation all across Canada with a bunch of locations that your company has promoted. And with that, your company has a potential to attract many young musical lovers and a potential growth that comes with it. Additionally, revenue streams. Your company also has a bunch of major revenue streams that helps you to come across that helps you to expand as a whole company. And with that comes great flexibility and adaptability. And so with the expansion that your company is willing to make, the help of the revenue streams, your company is able to diversify in a bunch of streams to just make it grow forward. And lastly, the company focus. Your company has a very strong mission as to the profitability that you focus on. And with that, the recommendation that we have for you today will help your company to just expand in the years ahead. And now let's take a look at the factors that the musical industry has. First, musical industry is a growing market. We understand that with COVID, there was a little bit of slide down, but as we move forward, as per the graphs, there is just exponential growth moving forward in the years. And with that comes a target market. Well, with the expansion, who are the market? Who are you trying to target? So as your company knows, as your company is aware that the young people has got their heart into music, and that's your target market. So with the popular trends, your company has to stay up to date with the trends, and that will also be covered in the recommendation today. And the current state that we have, which is the post-COVID state, kids are looking to return to the normal activities, which is again attending concerts and everything, and musical concert that activates more enthusiasm in them and just carries the growth forward. And with that, again, the families in Regina, as we're talking about the target market, since your company is located in Regina, there is very ample of young families with also the immigration factor that we will cover. And now, so like my colleague Evan mentioned before, this is the current state. Your company is a recovering company business with opportunities to grow. And with that, my colleague Julia will talk about the first opportunity we have for you today.
Thank you. So you've outlined 3 opportunities, and we are going to help you find the one that best suits your company with keeping in mind your mission of keeping profits high. So our first recommendation for you, or our first opportunity that we dove into with you today, was the satellite location. This location that you're looking at, there's 2 options, both located in the south end of Regina. As you know, the lessons that you are hosting currently are at max capacity, and you have no room in your current location to expand and hire on more instructors. So to expand, there is an opportunity to either lease or buy a new area that you are able to conduct purely lessons at. And this is also going to help you separate the inventory and the lessons. So we believe that even though you were worried about having no inventory at the new area, you're going to be able to focus one area solely, or not solely necessarily on inventory, but focus your group of people at the first location that you currently have on inventory, and then just be able to focus so much closer on your lessons at this new satellite location. Moving on to the financial implications of this decision. So first, let's cover the lease option. So you can lease a building that is 2,750 square feet for $29 per square foot. So that works out to around $80,000 a year in lease payments. You also have leasehold improvements that need to be done to the building of $150,000, but taxes, maintenance, and insurance are included in those $29 per square foot payments. So that means that you don't have to incur any other expenses that would come with the other option to cover taxes, maintenance, or insurance. Secondly, buying the place. This place is a little bit bigger. It's 3,000 square feet. However, you've indicated that you don't necessarily need the extra 250 square feet. This building is costing you $1.1 million, or at least that's the current price on the market right now. You've mentioned that you have a 5.25% interest rate from the bank that will cover this loan with a 10% down payment. And you would have to incur an additional $33,000 for those TMI expenses that were covered under the lease. So what does that mean for this company? Let's move on to the financial implications. And as you can see, the price up front is that 10% for the buy option. The yearly payments for interest are around $40,000, or yearly payments for the principal is around $40,000. Yearly interest payments are around $51,000 to start. That's just because it's such a high amount up front. The improvements are $125,000, and additional operational costs are $33,000 as covered before. So that brings it to around $360,000 of investment in the first year. For the lease, it's just the lease payments and the leasehold improvements, which brings a $230,000 upfront cost. So we pursued the lease payment in our further analysis and in our consideration, which brings us to these gross profits. As you can see, the first year is in a deficit, but that's just because of those other capital purchases that you've indicated, like furniture and fixtures. However, you can see that after the first year, there are increasing revenues. That has been taken into consideration and will be mentioned by my colleague Evan later, as he is going to move on and start with the second opportunity for you now.
Thank you, Julia. So the other opportunity that you presented to us was potentially discontinuing the piano line. So the one main concern that you had is that the piano line, or the pianos themselves, take up a lot of space on the inventory floor, and you were potentially wondering about how this space could be better utilized if the piano line was not proven to be very profitable at this time. So It can be replaced with DJ and electronic equipment, but as we'll get into later, it doesn't seem like that's the most profitable option at this time, as it stands today, the DJ and electronic equipment already sells a little bit less than the pianos themselves. So along with this, you at PGK gets preferred pricing when it comes to pianos, some certain brands. So it might not be the greatest idea to discontinue this relationship, as if there's potential in the future to reignite the relationship, that preferred pricing might disappear. So as you can see, the most important numbers I want you to look at right now is the gross profit per square foot. As I had mentioned, the pianos currently do make a slight more gross profit per square foot than the DJ and electronic equipment as it stands today. So we're not recommending at this time that you discontinue the piano line and you stay as is. So the next opportunity that you've presented to us is the sports source. So the owner is looking to retire and sell the business, and you're potentially looking at diversifying your revenue so that coming out of COVID, if the musical instruments industry does take a little bit more of a dive, you have this to fall back on as well. So as I've said, the sports source is a used equipment store. So whether it be for football, hockey, baseball, there's lots of opportunity in Regina for kids to play youth sports. So this store is a great opportunity for families to afford it a little bit more, as I say in my intro. So as it stands today, the inventory management within the store is not the greatest. It's very disorganized, there's stuff everywhere, it's kind of a little dirty in there. So the public may not be looking to walk into the store when they're looking for used equipment very often. So as I said, investing in the store will diversify your revenue streams a lot more than they already are, as you are bringing in revenue from many different areas already with your musical instrument store. But as I said, if the revenue takes another dive with the musical instruments, this can help prop you up just that little bit more. So I'll just point your eyes to the net profit at the very bottom there. As you can see, it goes up by about $10,000 a year. So it's pretty consistent, as you can see, with the slight changes to the maintenance budget and the owner budget, as well as you already have an employee to bring in at a slightly lower cost than what was there already. But with that maintenance cost being included as well, it kind of gets a little tricky when we talk about the numbers. So what we're hoping that the maintenance does is that it makes the store look a little bit more attractive to the public. So when they come in, they don't just see bins of stuff lying around everywhere, and they can go and say they're looking for a brand and walk right up to that brand, walk right up to that sport, and pick that up, go pay for it. So with all of these opportunities, we've begun some decision criteria for you. So the three are profitability, growth, and diversification. So we believe these three will ultimately lead to the best opportunity for you to pursue at this time. So the first one, profitability. Obviously, your business right now, your number one goal is profit. So we wanted to make this the most important part of our decision today. Next is growth. So post-COVID, you want to grow a little bit. You've been lacking in the revenue area, maybe customers are going down a little bit, so how can you grow the most? And lastly, diversification. Already you're bringing in revenue from 5 different areas at your store currently. If we can invest in this store, potentially open a new satellite location, this will open up more opportunities for your business to be diversified. So, as you can see here, the best option that we've laid out for you is the sports source. So it's great profitability, gives opportunity for growth, and it diversifies. And now I invite my colleague Julia to discuss the overall recommendation.
Thank you, Evan. As he mentioned, we believe that you should pursue purchasing the sports source. So we believe that you could acquire it between 3.25 and 3.75% or times of the EBITDA provided. So that's between $312,000 and $360,000. Moving on, as I said, acquire that company and just discuss with the bank the financing. We believe that since you have the pre-approval for the $1.1 million loan, that an approval for $350,000-ish should not be an issue. Next, we want to help you hire employees and help find someone or a process to clean and organize the store. As Evan mentioned, the store isn't as appealing as we believe it should be for your customers. So that's gonna be the next step. And to monitor this, we want to be able to purchase it for about $350,000. We believe that that's about the sweet spot, a little bit higher, closer to 3.6 times of EBITDA. So moving on, you also had some other concerns that you mentioned, such as the inventory. So currently, the current owner is valuing inventory at cost. And for accounting purposes, inventory should be valued at the lower of cost and net realizable value. So that's cost and the value that you can sell the product at. So we want to help you come up with a process to figure out what inventory is actually valued at on the balance sheet. So first, as I mentioned in our earlier Plan Execute Monitor, is organizing that inventory. To be able to accurately measure the amount of inventory and the value of inventory, you need to have it organized because it's much easier to count that way. Secondly, count the inventory, and then do evaluation of what you think the net realizable value is and compare that to the current cost on the balance sheet. And finally, we can help you adjust for inventory impairment or help you adjust for any scraps, and would love to go over the process of impairment at a later date. Secondly, the other issue was the trade-in process at your current store. We took a look at that issue and have a solution for you today, which is to create a trade-in handbook for your employees and a schedule. This schedule is really unique, and I think it's going to help with the issue of different valuations from different employees. So first, create that handbook. This handbook is going to outline the item or the areas that the employee should look for that will increase the value of the product and that will decrease the value of the product, as well as an approximate starting point for different products. Secondly, we believe that you should operate your trade-in process on a schedule. So that would be somewhere in the idea of having Monday as one group of products, having Tuesday as a second group of products. And then you can have professionals and experts on those products in working on those specific days. This will bring some expertise to the floor, and you'll make sure that you have someone on the floor that knows about the product that's being traded in. Moving on into the timeline for you. Immediately, we'd like you to go talk to your bank and just discuss that transition of financing to purchasing the business opposed to purchasing a building. Secondly, after about a week, once you get that approval, we will recommend that you begin the purchase negotiations. Between the negotiations and the actual acquisition of the keys, we think that's going to happen at about a 2-month point. And then after you get those keys in hand, start organizing all that equipment and work through that inventory process that was outlined earlier. And finally, at about the 5-month point, we believe that'll give you enough time to roll out this trade-in handbook and create a schedule and roll that out to your current customers. So the financial impact of all of this. We've outlined a great plan for you today, but does it make any profit? It does. So as you can see, the net profit for the first year is about $50,000. So that's about a 15% return on your investment of about $350,000. And it's just increasing over time, and it's going to increase over time as you go further into the future. So what does that mean? You're just gonna keep seeing more money come in, and that really narrows down or plays to your goal of as a company to see the most profit. Finally, I'd like to invite Vidi to discuss the overall risks and mitigations for you today.
Thank you, Julia. We believe that with great plan comes some risk, and today with the recommendations or the opportunities that we have identified for you, we have also identified the potential risks and mitigations for those, just so you have a solid plan to move forward with. So the lessons that, so currently in the company or in the store that you'll be working with, what if the lessons, the demand for the lessons increase? Well, with that, all you have to create is an optimization schedule, just so you have a very well structure of what lessons or like what time, if there's multiple students, how to schedule them in just once, and there won't be any additional need for any additional employees. Additionally, the instrument sales that we have projected, they the instruments that we will be putting in the store, well, the demand may not go up, the sale demand may not go up, but with that, the diversification options will always be considered moving forward. And finally, the inventory expected would be scrapped. So if we have, so the current inventory that we will be putting into TSS may rise up, but for that, the mitigation for that is to just create a spring cleaning campaign and just donate those excess inventories just to get those out of the way. Moving forward, some solid numbers or the key performance indicators we have just to lay out a solid plan, just to ensure that the plan is good. When we have net profit, which is of 100,000 profit by the end of year 2, that would happen with the after acquiring TSS, and the purchase price after purchasing or acquiring TSS and additional inventory. The net income will cover the initial purchase price that we will be paying forward, or your company will be paying forward, and the store success. The 15% increase in used equipment, that was as per the calculations. And now my colleague Evan will close off the presentation.
So as we've laid out for you, we believe that these 3 opportunities that you've given us, we have given you a solid plan to go off of. And you will be providing kids in Regina with more opportunity to go into these sports and participate in things that they're interested in. And with that, we open the floor to questions.
I'm just curious, with the purchase of the lease versus buy, obviously one of the benefits of that building will you can sell it in the long run, and with the real estate prices going so high in the long run, that would be a big benefit. Did you take that into consideration or perform any NPV on that at all?
We did take that into consideration. However, we believe that the diversification of bringing in the sports aspect to your business really outweighs having that future profitability from the sale of the business, because ideally you would just want to keep expanding. And if you were to sell that building, you just buy another building. So the diversification just outweighs that.
I just wanted to clarify why you decided not to pursue that.
So the satellite location, we felt that just pursuing the lesson plans as well, it created some risk as we had stated. If the recovery of the musical instruments industry doesn't recover as much as possible, you put all your eggs into one basket, and we feel that if you go with the sports store as well, if something does end up happening, you have something to fall back on.
So a question to that is, why can't we do both? Like, there's no profits, here's profit.
So we weren't provided enough numbers on your current financial status of your company. So if we were provided that, we'd love to go into that at a later time.
Additionally, we'd also like to say that this is still a good option. It's just not the best option. So it could be a future consideration, maybe 5 years down the line, that you pursue.
To TSS then, when you were talking about that, you talked about the purchase price and everything like that, and then you talked about inventory. What was the effect of the inventory on your analysis of the purchase?
Yeah, we took that into consideration just because it decreased. We took the decrease in EBITDA there. So instead of the suggested 3.5 to 4, when industry standard is around 5, that's why we went down to between 3.25 to 3.75. So it's on the lower end, because we don't really know how much the inventory will be impaired.
And just building on to TSS, so competitive advantage, with the hiring process, when you're looking at lead management success, or would you do,
It's a very good question. So we believe that with the employees that you had laid out in the pre-COVID period, or with the beginning of COVID, that will come in hand, because since you have really strong relationship with them, so they will be helpful if you want to recruit further more management to take care of the store.
Have you heard this?
We didn't feel that there was any more risks. Regina is a very vibrant market for youth sports. If you think about flag football, hockey, baseball, there's so many opportunities, and sometimes families don't have the opportunity to afford just the equipment and the registration fees at the same time. So we believe that this store will be a great opportunity for your company.
Won't purchasing TSS negatively impact our brand because we're in the business of selling musical products and sports products?
It would just be a great way to diversify the products. Like my colleague Evan said, there's a big market, so you are still pursuing with the musical line, but then with the sports equipment, you'll just be able to diversify more down the road. And with the market growing, this definitely is a great opportunity.
And as we mentioned in the analysis, we believe, or you had mentioned that youth 19 and under are big influences in the market, and we believe that also plays into the sports market. So it's more so making a bigger empire of having different options for youth, not just music.
Thank you so much.